To edit your news story, you'll be using WeVideo on a Chromebook. Remember, when you log into WeVideo, make sure you choose the Login with Google option and log in using your school email address. If you have other projects, you'll see them listed. But you need to create a new project for your news story, so go to Create a New Video and click on it. It may take a moment to get it ready. Make sure that you're in the timeline view. If it gave you an option for the type of project, make sure that you have chosen the timeline option, not storyboard, and save the changes. Under where it says WeVideo, click on My Video. That's the default name for your project, but you need to give it a different name. So change that to News Story and click OK. Now you have a timeline and you're ready to start building your project. Make sure you're on the My Media tab and take a look at any video or still images or soundtracks you might have. If this is your first project, this will most likely be empty except for My Exports. In order to create a new folder for your news story assets, use two fingers to click in the My Media location and then choose the New Folder option. Call this new folder News Assets and hit Create. Go ahead and double click to open the folder. And this is where you'll be placing both your recordings and other things you'll need to build your project. Next, click on Import. Browse to select. Navigate to your News Project folder. If you haven't already, create a folder called Interviews and make sure you have all the videos that you've recorded for your interviews within that folder. Notice that each of my interviews has the name of the person, followed by the extension that shows what type of file I recorded. In this case, they were MP4 files. With this open, I will go ahead and select all of them. I can click on the first one, hold down Shift and click on the last, or I could just use the Control-A key and select all of them. And now I'll click Open. It may take a moment for the files to be imported into WeVideo. For this tutorial, the video interviews have been simulated. Once your footage has been imported, go ahead and select your first interview and drag it down to video 1. That's the first video track in your editing timeline. Remember, the editing starts with 0 in your project and then moves in increasing time towards the right. Go ahead and use the space bar to start playing the interview.
What have been changes in your education since shelter-in-place has started and how have they affected you?
Press the space bar to stop at the end of your first question. You may either click on the scissors or press the S key on your keyboard to split the clip. Now select to the right of the split to select the next part of the clip, and then play through the first answer.
I'm more on email and Google Classroom because they give me a notification whenever a teacher emails or posts an assignment or announcement.
Go ahead and stop at the end and split. You want to repeat this process until you've got the entire interview split between the answers to the questions and the questions themselves. Once you have all your clips split so that you have the questions and the answers to those questions as separate clips, go back in and eliminate all of the questions. Make sure you're getting rid of a question.
In-place has started.
You can just press the backspace key.
Dual class meetings.
Or you can select the little trash can. Once you have all of the questions eliminated, go ahead and just drag your clips to keep them a little bit closer together because you're going to need a bit more space along the timeline here. As you work on the timeline, if you want to change the view, go down to the lower right-hand corner and you can either slide to zoom in or zoom out. After you've got your first interview split, go ahead and drag down your next interview. Put it after the first one and repeat the process. Remember, you want each of your interviews on the same timeline with all their questions eliminated, only leaving the answers. Remember, after you've eliminated those questions, go ahead and just group them together for the person whose interview you're dealing with. So in this case, the expert is the last interview that I've put on my timeline. It's good to have the expert as the last one, and then the students that you've interviewed earlier. In this case, I have interviews with 3 students, and I have 1 expert. Now that I have all the answers to all the questions, I can start grouping them together to get a sense of what people are talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and take the first answer, which should be the same first question since I asked all my questions in a row. And I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag to select all of this person's other answers and just kind of move them up out of the way onto the second video track. Now I can go ahead and move the first answer from the second interview and then the first answer from the third interview. Now I can go back and bring in the answer from the first person to the second question. I'll bring this person's second answer here and this person's second answer here. Now I need to kind of move some things out of the way for me. I'll go ahead and take this one, and then this one, and this one. Now, sometimes you don't have answers from everybody that kind of match up, so we'll see what happens here if I end up with an extra answer. All right, so I've got this one here. I'm going to leave a space to make sure that I've got each of these separate. So let me just make sure I get a space between these. And then I can go ahead and bring this in and bring this one in. I can click down here and drag to slide the timeline over to the side. I have to get my expert answers out of the way, so I'll just move them down the line a bit. I've got one more question that all 3 have answered. And it looks like I've got one extra one from this interview, so I'll keep that there. I'm just going to move my expert ones down below. After you've gone ahead and arranged the answers to the questions, grouping the students' answers, you might go back in and find something that the expert has said that kind of fits with what they've said. Sometimes you have to move things around quite a bit. You might have to just take a part of one person's answer, another part of somebody else's. What you're trying to do is see if you can almost create a conversation amongst the different answers people have given. Remember, you don't have to use the complete answer somebody gave, just parts that are going to work as it's put in combination with somebody else speaking. And you can see that the arrangement might change quite a bit depending on who it is. You might also have multiple clips from one person, maybe as a conversation, split up as they talk with other people. So this is going to take the bulk of your time to sit there and actually arrange all of these answers they've given. These are known as sound bites because they're the phrases or sentences that people have said that are going to tell the bulk of your story. And notice that they're arranged with gaps. So you have groups of people talking about similar things, and then you're going to have gaps that are going to be filled in by what you say as the reporter using some of the research you've said to help tie everything together. This is a process similar to when you're using quotes as part of a research paper or maybe an essay, and then you fill it in with your commentary too. So make sure that you spend some time to get your sound bites in order and that you listen through each group together to make sure it sounds like a good conversation, and then make sure that each group is used. And sometimes you're going to be throwing out a lot of the answers that have been given to you during the interviews. That's okay. You want to be able to use the ones that work the best to tell the story you're trying to tell.